Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and it's time to take a trip back in time. Let's go to an era of film that is, unapologetically my favorite time in film, and that is the 80s. The 80s has brought us so many classics out of that decade that it's senseless to list them all. It doesn't make sense because we'll be here forever. It doesn't matter the genre. It could be action. Think of all the action films or franchises even to come out of the 80s. Die Hard started in the 80s. Lethal Weapon started in the 80s. And you can go a little further back. Look at Indiana Jones started in the 80s. And that's just in the action. Comedies, oh my God. Comedies are it was like every weekend a new comedy was coming out. That's not so much as far as franchises, I would say. You had a couple of them pop out of there. You had your Ghostbusters franchise, the spearhead out of the 80s, but there were so many classic comedies that come out in the 80s, and it was a different time, a very different time, different style of comedy. A lot of these films that came out in that decade, that era, couldn't be made today. It couldn't even be attempted in this day and age, with the subject matter. And, one film that pops to mind, which I enjoyed the movie, but I always saw how offensive it was when it came out, and that was Soul Man, which starred C. Thomas Howell. If you ever remember that movie, C. Thomas Howell, who's white, wore blackface in this movie. His character, I should say, the character went into blackface to get a African American scholarship to go to Harvard. That was his only way to get into Harvard. And so the whole stick was him being black so he can get a Harvard degree. Very offensive, but it was funny. It was a funny movie. But now I'm older, I couldn't watch that movie. But back then, I actually enjoyed it. If it pops up now, I would probably watch it. But I can't find that movie anywhere. I've been looking for that movie for so long to watch, but I guess it's like, oh no, we're not putting that on our streaming service and get canceled. So it's hard to find that film. But another film that you would consider a classic to come out of the 80s was none other than in 1988, a comedy that just took the world by storm. Nobody saw coming. Nobody saw this movie coming. I sure didn't. Of course, I was 9, going on 10 years old. And so it wasn't like I was running to the theater. I had to beg my parents to take me to the theater. So I had to pick my battles. And this wasn't the battle that I chose to fight. This wasn't the hill I chose to die on to go to the theater to see. Oh, but glorious Blockbuster Video. I was able to rent it when it came out on VHS, and it was all good. I enjoyed it. Like many other films that come out in that era, Blockbuster Video was my friend, my best friend around this time. So many different types of movies I saw because of that, and a lot of people. That's how they discovered a lot of movies. Friday night, going to Blockbuster Video, grabbing you about 4 or 5 movies to last you the weekend, and going home, sitting down, and just enjoying the show. And boy, what a time. People just don't realize, I try to tell my kids this, and I sound like the old grizzly pawpaw man when I say, when I tell my kids this, the back in my day speech, how things were, how we did things, how stuff was set up. It was so different, but it was fun. It was an adventure, searching for these movies and just discovering different types of films. And it was just a good time, especially if you're a movie lover like me. And I'm assuming all of you are movie lovers. That's why you're listening to this show, which I greatly appreciate. Love you all. But Beetlejuice from 1988 was one of those films that I racked up a lot of late fees for because it took me a while to bring that back because I watched it over and over and over again. When I rewatched it, what was it, 2 days ago with my daughter, she claimed she saw it before. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to rewatch it because I want to watch it for the show and, have a fresh take on it when I review it. She decided to watch it. And I would say about 10, 15 minutes into it, she was like, I don't think I ever saw this. I only saw clips. I didn't see the whole movie. I said, well, you're in luck. We're watching the whole movie today. And I rewatched it, and, rewatching a lot of films from around that time, they're dated, they out of place, even with the examples I used before, the subject matter doesn't fit in 2024 eyes. But Beetlejuice was something different. Beetlejuice still holds up because it's not set in a particular time period where, it can come off as dated. It looked dated when it came out in 1988. It just looked like I want to say old, but it just looked like a retro type film. And it worked. It worked. The reason we're talking about Beetlejuice today is because we're finally, after 36 years, we're finally getting a sequel to Beetlejuice entitled Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. So this is a film that have Tim Burton returning as director, Michael Keaton returning as Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder returning as Lydia Deetz. It looks like it's, just going by the trailer. I haven't seen the movie yet. I plan to go see it when it drops Thursday. Is it Thursday or Friday? I don't know. They release films so crazy now. I don't even know what day it come out. But the first day is coming out, I'm going to see it. But judging by the trailers, it looks like it's that same vibe. It has that same kind of charm, that same humor that we all fell in love with in 1988. And so I am highly anticipating this film. We waited 36 years. Please, please give us something that we can enjoy, that something that can live up to the original film. I'm not expecting it to be as good as the original, but I am expecting it to at least live up to the billing. But it is what it is. We'll just have to play the waiting game as of now. But let's go through the production, what all took place, and how this film came to be, and what impact it has had on pop culture in these 36 years, on culture period, how quotable this movie still is, how this film brought a new contingent of fans to Harry Belafonte, who wasn't even in the movie, but his music was. And I didn't even know Harry Belafonte sung. I didn't know that until I saw this movie. And I was like, man, that's Harry Belafonte. I think my dad is the one who told me. He was like, Dad, the actor, because around this time I was starting to figure out who is who, started deep diving into movies and stuff and the actors and their backgrounds and blah, blah, blah. And so Harry Belafonte giving us these classics, these films, these songs that has lasted for so long. I still see commercials with Shake, 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 Shiona in the background, and I instantly recognize it from Beetlejuice. You know, what's the other one when they dance around the table? The Calypso one or whatever. Man, I can't think of the name of it now, and I just watched the movie. But anyway, I heard that song on a commercial the other day, and I was like, man, Beetlejuice. You know, it wasn't Harry Belafonte, R.I.P., but it was it was because I heard it on Beetlejuice. And so, yeah, man, this movie is so impactful that it still packs a punch 36 years later. Beetlejuice, released in 1988. It is a dark fantasy horror comedy film directed by Tim Burton, based off a screenplay from Michael McDowell and Warren Skidsrin. And this film stars Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Jeffrey Jones, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, and Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. This is the first film in this franchise, and I never thought we would get to see those words or hear those words, Beetlejuice franchise, but we're getting one. And the plot revolves around a recently deceased couple. As ghosts, they are not allowed to leave their house, but they contact Beetlejuice, a bioexorcist who scares the house's new inhabitants away. The film prominently features music from Harry Belafonte's albums Calypso and Jump Up Calypso. Like I said, this movie introduced me to Caribbean music, and I've been a fan of it ever since. Love it to death. No pun intended. But this film really took off after the success of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know, the Pee Wee Herman film that was directed by Tim Burton, his feature film debut. And it was such a success. Studios wanted Tim Burton to, you know, helm their next feature. Something in that same tone, something that is a comedy, obscure, and all that other good stuff. So they went at him with a few scripts, and Beetlejuice fell into his lap, and the rest was history. So that made him very bankable, and his next project was instantly greenlit, which was Beetlejuice. And so the next big step in this process was the casting. And of course, we seen the film. We know that Michael Keaton is perfect as Beetlejuice. He embodied the role. He is Beetlejuice, you know, along with being Batman and other roles in his career. But Beetlejuice, he is Beetlejuice. So it's a no-brainer. They went to him like fifth. He was not the first choice for the role of Beetlejuice. Originally, Tim Burton wanted, wait for it, Sammy Davis Jr. as Beetlejuice. Yes, that's Sammy Davis Jr. He wanted him as Beetlejuice, which would have been interesting. That would have been very weird, but for some strange reason, that fits. It's in my mind. That works, you know, with Tim Burton and this style of film and this character. He would have knocked it out the park, I think. Sammy Davis Jr. People don't realize how great of a performer Sammy Davis Jr. was back then. And, you know, he was a little older at that point, but I think he could have handled the role. That fell through, well, obviously, so producers went to Dudley Moore. And Dudley Moore around that time was pretty big, you know, with Arthur and other films. I love Dudley Moore. I really miss Dudley Moore. He turned it down. Sam Kinison turned it down. And so the studio made a suggestion. They said, hey, there's this Michael Keaton guy. Let's give him a shot. And Tim Burton had no idea who Michael Keaton was. He has never seen, up to that point, anything that Michael Keaton was a part of, which is weird, you know, because he's done The Night Shift. He's done Gun Ho. He's done Mr. Mom. He was pretty known at this point. You know, he wasn't an unknown actor. And so it was peculiar. Well, Tim Burton is a weird cat, so it really doesn't shock me he didn't see anything that Michael Keaton did. Uh, but he met with him, and they quickly quickly bonded, and he was convinced. I think he watched him in Clean and Sober, which wasn't a comedy. That was a straight up drama. And Michael Keaton was awesome in that role, by the way. I got tricked into that because I thought it was going to be a comedy because Michael Keaton is known for his comedy. So when I watched that, I was really shocked. There was nothing funny about that. But it was a good movie, and he did an awesome job, as always. And he got the role as Beetlejuice. Several actresses auditioned for the role of Lydia Deetz. Sarah Jessica Parker auditioned, Brooke Shields auditioned, Diane Lane auditioned, Justine Bateman auditioned, Molly Ringwald auditioned for the role, and Jennifer Connelly auditioned for the role. It came down to two actresses. It came down to Winona Ryder and Alyssa Milano. Yes, from Who's the Boss. And it, of course, went to Winona Ryder. And out of those two, yes, that was the right choice. Nothing against Alyssa Milano. She just doesn't fit the role to me. Good performer doesn't mean you're right for the role. There are a lot of great performers that just don't fit in movies. Prime example, look at Anthony Hopkins, one of the greatest actors of our generation, of all time, actually. He was in a Transformers film, and that was the worst Transformer film you ever gonna watch, and he was bad in it. Well, recently he was in that Rebel Moon movie, and he was bad in that. And I tried watching him in this Peacock show, Those Who Are About to Die. Horrible show. Well, it's not fair for me to say that because I only watched one episode. Actually, I ain't even finished that episode now that I think about it. Anyway, I don't want to go down that tangent, but he's a great actor, and he's been in some stinkers. And so that's the point I'm trying to make. Just because you're great doesn't mean you fit the role. But Winona Ryder fit the role. Tim Burton then cast Angelica Houston as the role for the role of Delia Deetz, the stepmother to Lydia. And once again, perfect match. I think she was would have been perfect for the role, but she had to drop out because she got sick around that time, so she dropped out. And they quickly pivot and cast Catherine O'Hara, who killed it. Who killed it. I had the biggest crush on Catherine O'Hara in that film. I don't know what it was, but from that moment on, I was in love with that woman. To this day, I'm still in love with it. It was something about her in that role. She just fit that role perfectly as the stepmother, because it wasn't your typical stepmother role. It wasn't the evil stepmother who didn't like her stepdaughter or stepchildren and all this other good stuff. It wasn't that. Even though you can tell she didn't sign up for the kids portion of the marriage, but she was there, and it was like, well, can't put it back in the bottle, can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, so I'm just gonna rock with it. But it wasn't an evil thing, and I like that. I like that aspect of it, because they could have easily went that route, and they chose not to. Beetlejuice was made on a $15 million budget, and just 1 million of that 15 million was for the visual effects work. So that was I guess you could say the least important aspect as far as the budget was concerned, which is weird because you're dealing with ghosts, you're dealing with those sandworms, you're dealing with the all type of stuff that deals with special effects. This is if it was made today, which it is technically, with Beetlejuice, it would be so visual effects heavy. Um, and I say that I'm not talking like Transformers visual effects heavy, but I mean it would be a lot of visual effects uh, to contribute to this. But they used a lot of stop motion, replacement animation, practical effects, blue screen, puppets and stuff like that, and it looks great. I love that. I'm a big fan of practical. You know, in case this is your first time listening to the show, welcome. Uh, I've said it numerous times in the past. Practical, you got me. I love in camera work. I love to see real car chases, real stunt men, real explosions. I love that. That's what I grew up on, and that's what attracts me to these films. Special effects have their place. Visual effects have their place, I should say, but um when it comes to safety and things of that nature, I get it. Can't really go out in space and film stuff. I get it. you know, but if, as much as you can get practically, I'm for it. And this film is straight up practical. Only $1 million to do what they did in this film is an accomplishment, and we're talking 1988 money. And so that's if you put that up against a film now, that's like $20,000 or something. I don't know. I don't know how inflation works with that, but it's I mean it's been 36 years. I'm pretty sure that money done depreciated. But yeah, man, that is a awesome achievement for this film. Now to swing back to the Michael Keaton of it all before we jump into the review, to really sit back and think about the partnership between Michael Keaton and Tim Burton throughout the years since this film is nothing short of amazing. You love to see that type of stuff when it comes to filmmaking. Martin Scorsese has Robert De Niro. That's his go-to. That's his guy. Quentin Tarantino has Samuel L. Jackson pretty much in every film that he makes. That's his guy. That's his go-to. All these great directors have that guy that or that young lady that they go to when they're making a film, because it's like a coach. If you're into football, it's like when you get a coach on a new team and they bring in somebody they coached before to kind of teach the rest of the team, get them acclimated to the system that he's putting in place. That's what it's like for these directors when they bring in talent that they've worked with in the past and whatnot. But if that only works if they have good chemistry, if they can pretty much finish each other's sentences and stuff like that. And for some strange reason, Tim Burton and Michael Keaton bring the best out of each other. From here, you got the very next year you had Batman. They left this set and went straight into Batman, and that changed superhero films forever. We wouldn't have the films that we have now if not for that film. And I might take that back. I'm gonna take that back, because you can say that about every film. You can go back to 1978 Superman with Christopher Reeves and say that as well. But at that point, the superhero genre was, or superhero film genre was, it wasn't in the best of shape, just to put it plainly. But that film was a phenomenon in 1989, a phenomenon. And so was this film. This film, for different reasons, but it was a phenomenon. They went on to make Batman Returns. Then they made what else they made together? They made Dumbo together. It was another film in there, if I'm not mistaken, but it's escaped in my mind. But it's good to see him come back now. And then we're in this kind of a Michael Keaton renaissance right now. We saw him last year in The Flash. He returned as Batman in the Flash, which was probably the best part of the Flash. Is Michael Keaton. He was supposed to be Batman in the Batgirl film that was canceled, um, which is sad because they filmed it, they finished it, and all this other good stuff, and they decided, nah, not good enough, and just burnt the movie, and we'll never see it. It's locked in the vote or something. We are never to see that film. It's allegedly that bad. But Michael Keaton was in that as Batman. At one point, he was going to be the Batman in the DCEU going forward. But when James Gunn took over and they decided to reboot the entire DC universe, they did away with all that. But he's popped up in some films over the past couple of years that made you remember that, man, Michael Keaton is one of the best actors out there, man. And I will say that to my dying day. I would scream that from the mountaintops because think back over his filmography. When you think of great actors, you think of range. They can do anything. You know, they can be in a comedy, they can be in a drama, they can be in an action film. It doesn't matter. A thriller. You know, Michael Keaton has played villains. In that film, Desperate Measures, he played a villain. It was another film, can't think of the name of it, but Melanie Griffin was in it, and he was this creepy villain in that, and was creepy. You know, he played a tough cop in one of these films. It was Lord, One Good Cop. I think that was the name of it. One Good Cop. Did great. But you know the film that made me realize that Michael Keaton is probably the best actor, or let me keep it personal. My favorite actor was Multiplicity. That comedy film about him cloning himself, and then the clone made a clone of the clone, and the clones made the clones of the clone. And it was like 6 of them, and he played all 5 or 6. I can't remember how many, but it was the clones, and all of them had different personalities, you know. And you watch that movie, and it was truly like watching 6 different actors play these roles, but it was one guy. And the way that I remember doing research on that film when it came out, because I was excited for it because it looked interesting. Haven't seen a film like that at up to that point. And they really did that. It wasn't like they filmed one of the clones one day and then came back and did the other clone the next day. No, they was all in the same day. They'll shoot his lines, he'll go back and he'll kind of change his mannerisms to do the other clone and all this other stuff. It was cool the way he was able to switch in and out like that. The dude is phenomenal, and I love him. I just love Michael Keaton. And so it didn't start here. It didn't start with Beetlejuice. I can go back to Night Shift. I can go back to Gun Ho. I can even go back to Mr. Mom. But Beetlejuice was the one where it was like, boom, he's here. He's here, and he's here to stay. And the funny part about it, he's not even in the movie that long. I think maybe 10 minutes if you put it all together. He was not in this movie long at all, and you don't even notice. I knew this years ago. I knew this, that the movie's called Beetlejuice, but there's barely any juice in it. He's not in it that much. I want to say 5 scenes, but I'm really leaning more towards 4. But it's either 4 or 5 scenes he's in this movie, and they're not long scenes. You know, he's very sparingly. This film is mostly about the Maitlands, who are portrayed by Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis. Once again, actors who I had no idea who they were at the time. I've seen Gina Davis in things, you know, prior to this, but I didn't know nothing about her. Alec Baldwin, I think I saw him on one of those primetime soap operas. You know, it was either Dallas or Knots Landing or something like that. It was one of those 'cause my mom watched. And so I remember watching it and seeing him on one of them. I'm leaning towards Knots Landing. If y'all remember that, that's how far back I go. But anyways, I haven't seen him in any movies up to this point. I think The Hunt for Red October came out either the year after this or the same year. Can't remember, but it was around the same time. But liked him in the role, a little cheesy, a little goofy, but he fit the film. You know, that was the way the character was. Gina Davis went on to win an Academy Award this same year in 1988, but not for Beetlejuice, for The Accidental Tourist, which came out in the same year. But she did win an Academy Award that year. So you can link the two together if you would like. God, that's fine with me too. But Gina Davis has been a mainstay in Hollywood for a long time. I mean, when I think of her, I always think of The Long Kiss Goodnight. That's my favorite film from Gina Davis. I loved her in that role as Charlie Baltimore. Just saw her recently pop up randomly in a film, Blink Twice, which came out a couple of weeks ago. I was like, man, that's Gina Davis. I ain't seen her in in these films for a while. It's good to see her, and I loved her in this role. I did. Her and Alec Baldwin, they fit together. They was perfectly cast, as the small town couple. These all shucks gee whiz type. You know what I'm saying? It was cute. They were a cute couple together, and it fit. Once again, just fit perfectly in these roles. Jeffrey Jones and Catherine O'Hara as the Deets. I really can't go deep into Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones disappoints me. Talking about him, it really hurts my heart because of, what all transpired in his personal life and why he isn't a part of this franchise or anything as of late because of what he has done. And I am not going to get into it, just do a Google search on Jeffrey Jones and you'll see what all he did and or is accused of and whatnot. Not a good fellow. I'll just put it that way. But I was a big fan of his. I actually enjoyed him in these films. I mean, we going back to Ferris Bueller's Day Off when he was the principal. Oh my God, I loved him there. I loved him in The Hunt for Red October. In his serious film turn. I liked him in the stupid little movie called Mom and Dad Saved the World. That was the dumbest movie ever, but I liked him in that. I liked Jeffrey Jones, and I liked him in this film. He was funny. He's funny in everything he's in. And for all that stuff to come out about him, with the pedophile stuff and all this here. I don't think he was an actual pedophile. I think they found child porn or something on at his home and all. Disgusting stuff. But anyways, as an actor, enjoyed him in this film. Catherine O'Hara, I already told you, had a crush on her after this film. Enjoyed her in this movie. Funny as I don't know what. And she's made me pay attention to her more. And she's funny in everything. Still to this day, hilarious. She's returning for Beetlejuice. So it's going to be fun to see her in this role once again. Winona Ryder, mentioned before, she was perfectly cast in this role as Lydia Deetz. It's a weird thing, this film. This is a true 80s movie. It was straight to the point. We didn't go around the world to answer all of life's equations and all this other stuff. It was a straightforward film, and that's what we got back then. Now everything has to be explained. Everything. Why is he wearing two different color shoes? Why is his socks? Why is one sock longer than the other? Is there some type of message there? And sometimes it's just there. And we didn't get all those explanations back then. We didn't need them. We were just being entertained. And look, I'm saying all that. I'm cool with the explanation. I'm cool with the films that make you think. We need those type of films, but not every film needs that. Comedies don't need that. Some action films just don't need that. I just want to see a building blow up. I want to see a car chase. I don't need to see the inner workings of this terrorist cell, why they're doing this and what's the explanation here and why they need to strategically attack at 3:48 on a Wednesday afternoon. I don't need let's just get to the meat of the matter. But that's just me. And that's sometimes. So it may come off as hypocritical. Like sometimes I'll give a review like, man, they didn't tell me nothing. I don't know what's going on. And some films do need to be explained. This one didn't. This don't need to be explained. They're ghosts. They're trying to scare these people out of the house. They can't do it. So they enlist the help of another ghost. And he can do it. And there you go. There's your movie. Hey, that's all I need. This was well written. This was well directed. This is Tim Burton at his peak. I mean, it's sad that it's the beginning of his career because think of the string of hits this dude had at this point. He started off with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That was his first film. He knocked that out the park. Then you have Beetlejuice. Then you have Batman. Then you have Batman Returns. Then you have Edward Scissorhands. He was on a roll. Yeah, and I'm not gonna say he fell off because he's made some interesting films from that point on, but not all of them were bangers. And that's not a detriment to him. That's not me shoo-shooing on him. Steven Spielberg is considered one of the greatest directors of all time. He got some stinkers. He got some bad films in his filmography that I'll be like, why, Steve? Why did you do this? Christopher Nolan, awesome director. I don't know what Tenet is about. I have no idea what Tenet is. I've watched that movie 3 times and I'm confused 10 times more than I was the first time I watched it. And so I just gave up. I stopped watching the movie. Not all directors can knock every single film out the park. And Tim Burton, it seems like his best was behind him, when he first started off. And, we're still looking for him to capture that magic. Hopefully it's in Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, we shall see. But time will tell. All the comedy works in this film still. I was laughing my behind off in this movie. The other day when I was watching it again, it was still funny. Even though I can quote it line by line, beat by beat, and I know what joke is coming and when and where, it still made me laugh. This film, it was I don't know. It could be a nostalgia thing. I could be biased because of my love for it growing up. It's a possibility. That's a strong possibility. And if you feel that way, that's a fair argument to have. It's fair. I won't even fight you on that. But I would say sit down and watch it again like you never watched it before, like it's your first time all over again. You will find a deeper appreciation for it. I found things in this film when I rewatched it that I didn't quite notice back in 1988. One, because I was young. I was 9 years old, but I was like, wait, that's cool how they did that. Yeah, with the model, using the model as kind of this plot device throughout the film, and Charles Dietz trying to basically buy the town, because he's a real estate developer and whatnot. And so trying to buy the town and turn it into this little entertainment place or whatever the case may be. I didn't understand all that back then. Now I do. And I'm like, man, that's an interesting aspect of the of the film. See, that's the advantages of being older and watching it. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed like I said, the special effects, the visual effects, still holds up. Yes, it is kind of weird in some aspects the way the visual effects are set up, but that's the point. It's supposed to be weird. It's not supposed to look nice and clean and glistening. It's supposed to look like it is, and I appreciate it. It's unapologetically cheesy, and that's what we got, and we leaned completely, fully into it. The music in this film, we talked about Harry Belafonte's contribution to this film with Jump the Line. That song, Deo, that's it, Deo, with the one they were dancing around the table. Deo, Misa Deo. Yeah, I love that. I love that song. So we talked about that, but we didn't talk about the score. Danny Elfman's score. Danny Elfman is one of those composers in film that he's done everything. He's done superhero films. He went on to do the Batman theme. He did the Spider-Man theme. And he did action movies. He did the first Mission Impossible film, and so on and so forth. It is a long list, but he is an awesome, awesome scorer of films. I love his scores, and this is his second go around, getting his first shot at it with Pee-wee's Big Adventure as well. And so this just continued continued his legacy from that moment on. This film, as I said before, went on to gross $74.6 million just here in the United States. They recouped this $15 million budget, and it was the 10th highest grossing film in 1988. Other notable films to come out that year: Die Hard. And I'm just going to stop right there. This film, believe it or not, is an Academy Award winning film. And so when you talk about Beetlejuice, you also have to mention it is an Academy Award winning film. It won for Best Makeup in that year's Academy Awards, which I can honestly say it deserved it. I don't know all the nominees that year. Can't think of what was utilizing or what film was utilizing a lot of makeup effects that year. But I can tell you, there was some real good makeup effects work done in this film, and it deserved that award. Here's a little known fact. Back in 1998, Beetlejuice became the first of more than 5.2 billion DVDs shipped by Netflix. You remember when Netflix used to ship DVDs? You used to rent them and they mail them to your house. Beetlejuice was the first to be mailed off from Netflix. Also in 1989, Beetlejuice got his own TV show. Yes, an animated television show created by ABC. The series ran for 4 seasons, and the final season aired on Fox from September the 9th, 1989 to December the 6th, 1991. Tim Burton served as the show's developer and executive producer. I remember that show. Used to watch that show because I used to wonder why they made Beetlejuice the hero. But around that time, they made a animated show for everything. They made a Godzilla animated show where Godzilla was like a hero, a crime fighter. It was the dumbest, silliest thing ever. Rambo got a TV animated show. RoboCop got an animated show. These are rated R properties, and they got kids shows on Saturday mornings. It was wild back then. Man, I miss the 80s and 90s. But anywho's, yes, we had that. They tried to get a sequel off the ground for so long. Live action wise, they had Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian, where he goes to Hawaii, or Beetlejuice Goes to Hell. They had a Beetlejuice, and these are uh, 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 potential ideas. Of course, none of them came to fruition, but these were potential films to be made, ideas that they were trying to use, but it didn't come to be. It took 36 long years to finally get a sequel off the ground. Beetlejuice, directed by Tim Burton, and Michael Keaton returning as Beetlejuice himself. Also returning Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara. Joining the cast, we have Jenna Ortega, which is once again perfect casting. Didn't see the movie, but I don't need to see the movie because she is perfect as Lydia Deet's daughter. I mean, can Wednesday she is that. And William Dafoe also joins the cast. This looks really good. I'm excited for it. Hopefully I'm not let down. I don't have too high of expectations, but I do have a smidget of expectation. Just hopefully it can make me chuckle once or twice, and I'll count it as a win. But it all started back in 1988 with the original, with the one that started it all, Beetlejuice. And that film gets a letter grade of an A. I think it's a true classic. It's not a cult classic. It's a classic. That movie holds up perfectly. I was so shocked on how much it held up because me watching it a couple of days ago was the first time me sitting down watching it from beginning to end without stopping. I want to say maybe 10, 15 years. I could be generous with that. It could be longer. But it's been a while since I watched it from beginning to end. And I had a good time watching it. It was a really, really joyous experience. Like I said, like watching it for the first time sometimes in parts. I was like, what? Do I remember that? I know I remember it because I watched it 50 times, but it felt new. But I had a good time with it. Yes, it is an A. The reason it's not getting an A plus, the only reason I'm not giving it an A plus is the fact that the movie just stopped. It stopped. It left me with a cliffhanger that I had to wait 36 years to finally get. And I'm mad about that. I know I'm being petty. I'm nitpicking and whatever else you want to add to it, but you have to understand this is real for me. I was hot that we never got a sequel to Beetlejuice because it went off with the cliffhanger. It had a cliffhanger, and I'm like, okay, we're getting another film soon, and it never happened. Now I have kids. Now I have kids in their 20s who never seen. I still haven't gotten it yet. I still have to wait a couple of days to get it. But yeah, that's the only reason I haven't given it a plus. But it is a near perfect film in my eyes, a near perfect comedy in my eyes. But I would love to know your feelings on Beetlejuice and its upcoming sequel, Beetlejuice. Are you a Beetlejuice fan, or you're like, man, it's been too long, I'm not going down that road again? And I guess I can understand that, but I waited too long. I'm gonna get my pound of flesh. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube, everybody. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of a classic 1988 comedy horror fantasy film, Beetlejuice. Want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.